Hello, hello. I am not sure, honestly, why I'm yellow today. Well, hopefully you're hearing me fine. So just give me 1 second, please. This is so far away. Let me try to do this. 1 second, I'm sorry. Okay, I guess this is better, right? Okay. Hello, Cassia. Just give me a minute. Okay, I guess I'm good now, hopefully. Hello, hello. I am Ella Morello, and today we're gonna talk about something that it's so common, so common. How afraid are we of being judged, of being criticized? So, what can we do about that? So, if you're new here, my name is Ella Morello. I am a being just like you in evolution, trying my best to evolve at every opportunity. So right now I'm doing these talks until the end of next week when we start a free workshop. And the idea here in these lives, in these talks, is for me to bring a couple of insights and perspectives for us to start scratching the surface on how to feel more at peace. But the whole idea about the workshops and the knowledges that I share with you is, well, a practical way that we can develop, self develop. So instead of you going and doing all the work, all the path that I have done, and it has been at least 10 years that I am absolutely immersed onto this, studying different religions, different tools, different wisdoms, honestly, on just to understand how can I live in peace, uh, how can I be able to don't simply react on the world we live in. You know, why are we here? What we doing here? It must be have a purpose, right? So all these feelings, these discomforts that us human beings have and feel, well, they are real, right? We're feeling it. So my idea with these workshops and with my work for you is to lay out a practical way, a simple way, so you don't have to, do the path that I have done. For example, yes, absolutely, you can meditate, you can go to yoga, absolutely, you can do that. However, it's going to require so much of your time for you to actually start seeing those changes. Yes, the meditation will help you right away, to start opening space inside of yourself. But okay, how do you actually deal with your unconscious reactions during everyday interaction that we have with people? So, the whole idea with these workshops is to bring you simple tools that you can start using. And remember, it's a path, it's a work that we do together, and actually you do by yourself. I give a couple of suggestions, but honestly, whenever we start putting into practice, things get easier. Whenever we are able to literally, for example, the talk of today, we're going to talk about critics. Whenever we are able to receive a critic, for example, and not feel, that pain, and don't be there, lose so much energy thinking about that, that's when you got a little achievement inside of yourself, this great feeling. That's our goal. And the whole idea here is every time you work on something, this is going to get easier and easier. So how do we find peace when in the chaos? Because it's easy to find peace when we are having a great vacation, we are not looking at any problems, we are with people that we love. However, what about those things? Our mind is so strong, so potent that you know how many times so many people have problems sleeping. If we look around, we have talked about this again before, I mean, which is how many people around the world are depressed. Why are us so anxious? Why we're living in this way? Isn't this an opportunity for us to have this life, having this body where we sense things? So the whole idea is let's go back to who we are, our true self. But for that, we need to drop down all our personas that we think we are. Okay, so one of let's get to the point. The point of the talk of today, it's something that people come to me uh, with different, sentences. Let's put it this way, but the pain is always the same. They in different ways, in different situations, we as human beings are afraid of being criticized, are afraid of being judged. So, one thing that I want to bring up here is, by the way, why, Ella, before we get it, we dive deep into this, why, Ella, do we have to, as you said, take all these personas out? Well, because we believed we have we have misunderstandings in our subconscious. We react most of the time from our subconscious. So the whole idea of this work is understanding the root cause, because truly it's not just about, let's say, your boss that criticized you yesterday. That's not the pain you're feeling. Next, if you think it is and you can fix that outside there, in a week you're going to come back sad and in pain because your mother criticized you. So the root is never the situation that is outside. The outside is just a manifestation. The root cause is inside of us. And that's the beauty, because that's where lies our power to do it differently, to feel differently. And for that, I am sharing these insights because first we have to understand, let's come into terms and accept truths. And then whenever we're able to accept that, then we start working on them, right? So what do I mean? What is the truth of today? Well, let's start by the understanding and agreeing that you are going to be judged no matter what. Period. If you choose to go right, you're going to be judged. If you choose to go left, you're going to be judged. Maybe by different people, maybe with these different words, or whatever it is. That doesn't matter. So let's start from the understanding and agreeing that you can never get it right. So now, here is the point. This is the beauty of the human being, because, I mean, we are 7 billion people around the world with internal material, unique internal material. There is never going to be someone that is exactly like you, obviously. So first of all, we have different internal material. Second, you have lived experience that are just yours, and that created the connections that you have. So no one, for as more as you have a connection with that person and you guys get along super well together, no one in this planet is going to see the world through your eyes. So, with that being said, it is normal that I look at a person, okay, and maybe inside of my head, I'm not even saying that I have to criticize out loud, but inside of my head, I might judge her and say, you know what? I would have done that differently. My way is much better. And then we go in different sizes of in different parts of our being that we're going to talk in a little bit. But the point is, it is normal that we are judged. Let me explain this. Let me reframe this a little bit better. In this reality that we live, our mind is a big part of it. If I can say this, 99% of people are so identified with their mind that they believe they're just their mind. Remember back in the day, I forgot who said that, maybe Aristotle, that said, I think, therefore I exist. Well, not really, right? So right now we are in this spiritual path, understanding we are more than just this simple physical body and the mind. The mind has a huge importance in our life. However, we are not our mind. There is something inside of us that when you start tapping into this power, you understand, oh, wow, I have a mind. What does our mind do in this reality? It labels things. That's what it does. And it does that in order to make us, to keep us alive. Wow. So we live in a duality. Whenever I tell you, look at whatever you have in front of you and observe that. If you stay there for a second and you observe enough, you're going to see your mind saying, glass, red, big, small. Do you see that it is giving qualities, giving characteristics to that object? Right? So that's what our mind does in order to store that information. We are still, it's still a practice that requires us to stay there and simply observe without labeling. So let's understand this. Us, our mind automatically uh, judges. Judge doesn't mean that it's something bad. They simply classify, label things. Okay, so we do that with a lot of people, even though I'm not saying here that we go there and we say to the person, oh, wow, we were wrong and we criticize. No, but inside of us, somehow we have an opinion, right? It's really hard for the human being to grasp this reality that, wow, the only thing I can do here is accept how the other person is. In the same way, I want to be accepted. So, one thing that I want to invite you to think about and maybe even write down this sentence because it can help you, okay? Uh, think about critics from a different point of view, which is, uh, well, anyways, I'm gonna I'm gonna give you this in 1 second. Let's start from the beginning. That's one thing that I want to share with you. If there is, let's start from there. All we can do, so it's normal that we are going to be classified, judge, label, whatever it is. We do that with people. And remember, here is the point. If I care so much about what other thinks about me, is because I think my opinion of others is important. So whenever you are able to start tapping into, is my opinion about that person, is it truly changing anything about that person, or simply is my opinion? Whenever you realize that your opinion doesn't truly matter or makes any difference in the life of the other person, then whenever someone has an opinion about you, this is not going to hurt you in that level. Correct? This is not going to be so discomfortable for you. So this is the first invitation. Remember, if you are seeing, is because you are doing. So before we go into what we can do with critics, the invitation is, if there is a lot of people telling you the same thing, let's give an example here. Let's say you heard in a couple of times from different people in different words, but maybe that you were rude. Well, if that person is criticizing you, I always invite you to take 1 second. You don't have to react. This is for you because this is what you have as an opportunity to do something with that critic. I invite you to go inside and ask, is there any truth in what that person is telling me? By the way, you see your mind right away trying to justify. Yes, it can do in two ways. Oh, yes, but she does it worse. So it's justifying the whole thing. We don't care about the other person. Let's just think if this is true for us, not the other person. That doesn't matter. So if it is even 1% of truth, or even maybe you are not able to see that, but you're seeing that a lot of people are telling you that whenever something gets triggered inside of you, you get rude. Oh, wow. Now you have the opportunity to look and say, let me try to start observing and paying attention. What is the feeling? What happens before I am rude to people and I get triggered? So you're going to do this internal work if it is for your own evolution. Is not to be accepted by others, not to be rejected by others, nothing like that. So the invitation always is, there is a critic. Sit with yourself and ask, is there anything in this critic that might be truth? Is there anything about this critic that I can do about it? Correct? For you, by you. Okay. Now we are going to get into this second part, which is truly, if you think about it, we started by saying that every human being has a different content and unique content material, right? So before what we know, what we have inside, we have our stories. We all had our own childhood. We all perceive reality in a different way. It's really interesting because when you think about siblings, you can see they were raised by the same mother, but they perceived reality with their internal content. So whatever they're gonna do and whatever absolute truths they're gonna create inside of them is absolutely unique. Okay, so by that point of view, by this perspective, I've invited you to think, well, if everybody sees the world differently, why the critic of this person affects me in that level? This is simply her opinion. That's how she sees life. Well, I have the right to see life in the way I want to see life. So, what you can do if that critic is listen, if it makes sense to you, not in a way of react, understand if it gets triggered by you and you have a defense mechanism. So, you fight, you justify, whatever it is. Take this out. We're not doing that. We're working on us, how to accept critics. Go inside. Oh, I'll know. Even though that person said that, and I can see there is a couple of truths on here and I can work on that, well, I still have my opinion. So, why would you care about that critic? That's just how that person is seeing that situation. Also, what gets interesting is whenever you start talking to other people are going to give you different perspectives. So, at the end, just go with your own opinion. Be open to hear because a lot of times, as I said, we lie to ourselves and a lot of our reactions are unconscious. So if they are unconscious, maybe these people are just giving us like insights. So wow, maybe the way that I go inside is through that. So first of all, let's, be in peace. Let's take a deep breath here. On. Everybody's going to have their own opinion, and their opinion is not more right than my own opinion. Okay? One thing interesting, it just came to my mind that, anyways, I'm going to share something personal. I think it's so funny and so interesting that a lot of people around me, they get really, really comfortable coming to me and saying a critic. And this has been a long time, also when I was a kid and so on. And that was curious for me because I'm like, oh, wow. Imagine if they knew what I think about them. This came to my mind a couple of times. And I'm like, I am a person that never ever gives a critic or gives my opinion if I'm not asked about my opinion. But people feel so comfortable coming to me and giving me their opinion when I didn't ask. But then I start realizing something else. Oh, wow. Maybe they do that for whatever reason, which is not mine. But truly, whatever they give me a critic, I always look and I'm like, this is telling, well, this might have some reality, some truth on it. But most of the time, it has more to do with their own life experience than has to do with me. So I literally take their critic as an advice and I transform it in an advice. So I want to invite you to actually think about mirrors. Okay, this is the second part of this talk, which is uh, what do I mean that this talks more about their own life? They can be the people that love us the most, and they might be thinking that they're giving us a constructive criticism. And I found that so funny because the other day I saw a meme that is like, "Can I give you a constructive criticism?" And then the person answers, "No, I'm not under construction." So that's a good one. The whole idea here is for us not to get any type, not to identify with that critic that is being said to us. So what about the mirrors, Ella? Here's the thing. If I come to you and I say something, I criticize you, I am telling you much more about me than about you. So whenever you judge someone, that's the invitation. Whenever you judge someone or you have a critic to give to someone, ask yourself, why am I doing that? Second, which part of me I need to look and heal or integrate about this critic that I'm giving the other person. Everybody that exists is a mirror. Every relationship, every situation, whatever you're able to perceive is an invitation for you to look inside. So I have talked and gave many examples about this in the past, but let me think about a new one. Well, let's say you're I always give this one. So let's talk about the partner. Let's say you think your partner is weak. You know, he depends on you, he or she depends on you for everything. Somehow you have this critic like, come on, you are capable. You stop being lazy or weak, whatever critic you might think. Well, the invitation is probably if you're thinking that way, that doesn't mean you are weak. Okay? What does that mean is if I am so bothered about that person being weak, so that's my critic to the other person, maybe should I look inside and try to understand that I have to accept people, that I don't need to control everyone and every situation, that my way is not the best way, or even maybe can I ask for help to others, or I am a person that doesn't allow myself to ask for help? And that's why it bothers me so much when my significant other asks help for everything. So, do you understand how the mirror works? It's not necessarily the exact same thing. If I tell you you are selfish, not necessarily I'm selfish. So, what you can do with a critic? First, just for your own good, is there anything that is true about what this person is saying? Yes. Whenever I feel attacked, I am rude. Great. Now you have what you got from that critic is great. You're rude. Now we are going to work on you. Where does this rudeness comes from? How do we integrate that rudeness so this is not a habit reaction? Okay, life can happen through you and not to you. We just have to get back to understand who we are and our own power. So that's how we get back to the power. Okay, great. So someone got the critic. We can do that. Okay, there's a truth, put on the side. Second thing, look at that person, and now you don't have to do anything. My invitation is okay, that's their opinion. It has nothing to do with me. It has much more to do with their pains, their fears, their frustrations. This critic says much more about them than you do about me. But can I take this critic as an advice? Maybe if that person is telling that, even though it might not be true, is there something I can do useful with that critic? And more important, we, as we have said this a couple of times, we humans do not like to be in discomfort. We don't like, we try to avoid at all our cost our emotions. That's what we do because we're trying to protect ourselves. This is our defense mechanism, correct? So the idea is ask yourself beyond the obvious. Why is this hurting me so much? And now you're going to be able to notice a couple of things on you, which are, well, maybe you go to the victim side. Okay, you believe that, oh my God, everybody is against you, or you are unlucky, and you go into this victim part of yourself, which is this is not fair. I was wrong, that was not my intentions. Well, if you know your intentions, whatever people say, you know your intentions. It shouldn't affect you. Okay, so this is one thing. The second thing is, okay, so I am feeling that pain. I'm in that discomfort. Let me try to understand where this comes from. Maybe when you were a kid, because here's the thing, why do we have so much misconceptions in our unconscious? Because we created so much reality that is stored in our unconscious from 0 to 7 years old. That means, could a kid from zero to 7 years old knows exactly what reality is? Could she think? Did she have a brain to think, no, it's not true that my parents are abandoning me. They are simply going to work because they need to support this house. Obviously, a kid does not have this capacity yet. So, what it says, my parents are never home. Maybe I don't have a value. Maybe I am doing something wrong. Maybe they don't love me. Obviously, this is all unconscious. So you don't know about that. You don't remember what your kid stored as a reality. However, That's why it's so important for us to look into our inner child pains. So, okay, I already figure out in my work there's so many pains. We all, as adults, we have this because every kid cannot grasp reality the way it is. So we all have this. But what we're gonna do with this, because also again, let's not blame our parents. They have nothing to do with that. They did their best, and so on. What can I, as an adult, do right now? Well, bring these misconceptions into my consciousness so I can deal with them and integrate them. Because now you have the ability to say, my parents did not abandon me. They simply were supporting the house. So, this fear that I have inside of me that if I am not perfect, I'm going to be judged. Because truly, the pain is not about being judged. Do you know what the pain is? If someone criticizes you, you this shakes your self-worth. This shakes your trust on your own self. Where does this come from? This comes from our child pain, meaning you needed your parents in order to survive. So whenever they told you no, somehow you created a fear. So we are afraid of being abandoned, being rejected, obviously in different levels. It truly depends on your internal content in the life and experience that you had. But all of us adults have the capacity to heal that because these are all misconceptions. So if you were a kid, think about this. Every time that someone is criticizing you, if this hurts you, is because you believe, your kid believed, but the kid was right. If she didn't have the parents, she was gonna die. As of right now, you're not gonna die if someone criticizes you. So this is not true as of right now, right? So whenever it hurts you, this pain of being critic, I invite you to sit there with that pain, cry it out, scream, whatever. But most of all, pay attention what your brain is telling you as a justification. If you see is a victim, understand how you felt in your childhood. Did you have space when you were a kid to tell your parents how you felt? Your parents or people who were taking care of you, how you felt. Or they would look at you and say, this is right, this is wrong. And they would punish you every time you did something wrong. So let's think about another situation. Let's say you were not this kid that did shit wrong and all that. There is this woman one day that she was sharing with me this that is like this. She loved as a kid the compliments because whenever they were like in a restaurant, whatever, like there were more kids, she would always stay sitting there quiet in the table with the parents, and all the other parents would be like, oh my god, this kid is an angel, she's so well behaved, she doesn't go nuts with all other kids running from the in the restaurant. As of right now, this woman is like 47 years old, and she looks back and she says, my kid wanted to be screaming and running the restaurant with the other kids, but I thought that if I was not perfect, I wouldn't be loved, I wouldn't be approved by my parents. Do you know what she became? What is her biggest problem right now in her life? Is being, she cannot take any critic. As soon as someone comes to her and say, listen, you committed a mistake in your job, this woman feels that she is incapable, that she is the most dumb person in the world, that literally she gets a thing and does like this to herself. She has a self punishment that is huge. So, what happens in her work? Before she gives anything to the boss, she redo the work 3 times at least because she knows she cannot bear a critic. So she tries to avoid being critic. Can you imagine that we created, like we ourselves, we create the prison and we are the prisoners, and the door was always open? Literally, what is the work she invited to do? Go back to her, to that kid, and say the truth. Your value has nothing to do with you being perfect. Let's understand this. Being human means being everything that you can be. There is nothing like perfection in this dimension. Where did you get the idea that you cannot get things wrong? Well, you think if you're not perfect, you're never going to find love. You're not deserving of love. You're not deserving of a good job. You're not deserving. Make peace with being able to commit mistakes. This is the first thing. Perfectionism doesn't exist. And if you want to go deep into that, well, perfectionism exists if you understand that being perfect is also committing mistakes. Because in this life, if you get things right, you also get things wrong. So let's start from this concept. Another thing, defenses and the things that I told you. Well, when we feel attacked, that's when we react in an unconscious way. Why? Because we all our parts of ourselves are trying to defend us from something because we see danger, danger, danger. So if someone criticizes you, a lot of people, their first reaction is to justify. No, no, I didn't do that, or that was not my intention, or you didn't understand. You are feeling under attack, you know. So if you are a person that feels this way, I invite you to start telling the truth to your own self. Honestly, even if that person is right, the only thing you can do with that is work on yourself if this makes sense to you in order to evolve, to don't feel that pain anymore. That's all you can do. Because everybody, as I said, is going to have their own opinion, and there is nothing you can do about that. The same way, there's nothing they can do about your own opinion. Correct? Well, there was another part on this, which is okay, looking at this parts of our kid, and yeah, it's really common that this critics brings us to do comparisons, which is also we are interfering, we are going against the spiritual law because we don't understand the truth. When I compare myself, especially nowadays, with all this Instagram thing, all this social media, it's so interesting that we always look at the grass of the neighbor and see how green it is. So even though there's a lot of movement saying Instagram life is not real, I'm not even saying that it's not real. Maybe but there is a reality part of that, right? But again, do you post? Even if you do post your sad moments, most of the things that you post, you're sharing joy, you're sharing there with your friends. Most of the things that you share is probably something good, right? And whenever you are more sad, you might say something on social media, or no, or maybe you're reserved and you're going to talk to close people from you. Doesn't matter. So does that make that is any, if you tell me, please introduce to me any human being alive that does not have a problem. But again, what our mind does, it judges, it compares. So it's super easy for us to say and think and judge and criticize, saying, oh no, it's much easier for, what is the name of that guy, the guy, the rich guy, Elon Musk. I don't know. Whatever the guy. Let's someone else. I don't know. The guy from Microsoft. Forgot his name also. I'm great with names. Anyways, so we tend to look and say, "Oh, this is super. Life is easier for those people than it is from someone else." Who told you that? Are you living through his eyes, his life? The challenges for sure are different. So yes, maybe they don't have the problem that most of the population does, which is money. But what are the problems that they have? Nothing in the universe, nothing life is out of balance. Who makes out of balance? And we talked about this is us human. Okay, so a lot of people have, others don't have. But if everybody had, then we all would have food and so on. So, yes, we are living in this situation. That's how it is. But look at this judgment. You know, like whatever life gives you, this is an important spiritual understanding. Whatever life gives you, you're going to pay the price for that. The problem with humans is we all think that we are paying the same prices. We all don't even have the same opportunities. We all see life from a different point of view. Maybe something, maybe no, something that might be absolutely easy for you might be absolutely hard for me. How come are we judging every single human being in the same pot? That's impossible, right? So, from that point of view, it is absolutely crazy for us to compare ourselves to anybody else. Everybody has their own story. The guy from KFC, I don't know, that happened. He was 60 when he became a businessman. Well, there are other people that started at 20. Does that mean, look how we are, look how we self-punish? We believe if we're not perfect, if we're not there, if our grass is not that green, that we are behind. And that's how critics really hurts us. This is so interesting. This is so beautiful. I want to bring one example that I always think, which is, wait a second, even though I admire that person so much, I admire her in so many levels, right? By the way, I love her. I admire her in many situations. However, she's giving me a love relationship advice. Think for 1 second. Sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, when I look at her love relationship, do I admire that? Do I wish, do I aspire to live something like that? If the answer is no, how on earth am I worried about the critic that that person is telling me? I'm not judging you. You live your life the way you want. You want to have this type of marriage. That's great for you. I have a different vision. So thank you so much. This judgment, this critic, this constructive critic does not serve me. But if I aspire someone, let's say doing work, and that person comes to me and say, I will do this differently, again, she doesn't know, right? She's not in my skin. She's not living that. She's giving me a opinion or a critic that I am going to take full responsibility for that critic and understand. Will I put that into use? If this makes sense to me rationally, I'm going to put that into use. But then if this go right or wrong, that's my responsibility. Has nothing to do with the critic of the other person. We cannot blame the other person. That's what we do. We want people to come save us. We want to find who is to blame. Where? So it comes from this idea of us that we have the right and the wrong. But guess what? That's a misconception. There is no right or wrong. There is always a path you choose. Should I go right? Should I go left? Doesn't matter, truly. You can decide. Whatever way you go, you're going to live different experiences, but the same opportunity to evolve. It's just going to have different people around you. Should I move to Mexico? Should I go to China? Well, obviously, your life is going to be pretty different, but the challenges you're going to have, your soul is going to put you there. Doesn't matter there is no right or wrong. It matters, are you aware enough to understand that? So if being criticized is something that really hurts you, first of all, do all these steps that I told you. Second, understand, let me work on the wounds of my child, because it's still, as an adult, I believe that this is true. I believe I'm going to die if someone criticizes me, which is not true. And what can I do with that critic? Is it true? Is it not? No reason to justify to no one. This is a self work. Can I do this better? Great. Can I stay with my emotions? Am I able to say, because for example, what happens is our inner child feel the pain. So for example, whenever someone says something and you think, let's say, that's not fair, you feel that pain. You're like, how come this person was able to say something like this about me? That's a pain. That's your inner child pain. However, who responds is your lower self. So let's say who has the reaction. Probably, I'm going to give you a couple of reactions. Maybe you're going to be a person like, ah, you're crazy. This is not fair. Maybe your lower self is going to be like, you know what? Now this person is going to say, next time she needs me, I'm not going to be there. Vengeance. Another way of our unconscious self, lower self reaction. Uh, I'm never again going to speak anything about this person to this person. She's not going to be part of my life. What are you trying truly to do with in any of these cases? Defend yourself because you feel your integrity was hurt. How is that even possible? You are the only one capable of hurting your integrity. So literally, if that person told you something and you bought and you ate that, now it became you. If someone brings you an apple, gives it to you, you just have an apple. You can throw that apple away. If someone gives you an apple and you eat that apple, now it becomes a part of you. So if you are believing in these critics, tell yourself if they are true and if you can do something to change that. If you don't think that critic makes sense, you simply gonna thank you so much. I don't think it makes sense. And you're gonna throw away. When you're able to actually throw away, if you have to see that actually has nothing to do um, with your lower self. Because if there is any reaction, the vengeance, the I'm wronged, the screaming, the whatever it is, if there is any reaction, you ate the apple. If you simply throw it away, that's great. That's when we are talking. So that's the invitation of today. And this is obviously, as I said in the beginning, I'm going to share practical tools that we can put into practice right away. But as I said, it's a work. And don't get this wrong, because it's not a work that requires effort. Actually, it requires only presence. If you're able to do that in your daily life, something happened to you during the day you're working, go back home, get 5 minutes to think about what I just told you. Do this little internal work. The next time is going to be even easier and easier and easier, until they, because here's the thing that we have to understand: the changes happen in the outside world as a consequence. You don't have to do anything in the outside world. We're literally doing an internal work, in order for the outside to change. So requires, it's not effort, it's attention. And we are not trained to have this attention. Why? We do things out of habit. We do things out of our unconscious. So we have to go inside our unconscious to start understanding that. So this is the whole invitation. You're going to have this opportunity throughout your whole life. Because even though I know about this, for me, for example, as I told you about my family, whenever they say right now, nowadays, it's so easy for me to actually it's easy for me to actually let go in that sense. But it's not true. I would be lying to you if I told you that anytime I receive any critic from someone, it's fine. No, I go back and I do that work. Okay? So that's the invitation of today. And I passed my time. That's why they are calling me. So thank you so much. Tomorrow we are gonna have another talk, as I said, for the next 2 weeks. We're gonna have these talks before the workshop. We're gonna learn like more practical tools in like a step-by-step journey, so you know where you stand. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.